Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to We're the People. This is your host, Jason Preston, and today we are doing a short update on something that was really crazy that happened last week with spring equinox. If I can say it right, equinox. It was some wild things that we just have to talk about. And today, to join us in this conversation, we have everybody's favorite Chelcie Hope.
I don't know about that, but hey, guys.
Yes, everybody loves Chelcie. Chelsea's been amazing. We were just talking about her today and how instrumental she's been at helping with this channel. I mean, this channel is huge part of the success has come from her. So appreciate her. And then back in the studio, we have Ashley and Jesse Smith. How are you guys doing?
We're good. Thanks for having us, Jason.
Good.
Yeah, we're great. Thanks.
And we want you guys together because this has been a wild week, and I think you guys will be very interested to hear what happened. And so I really wanted them to come in because there was, I really believe this is a battle of light and dark, and I think, if March 20th was, a satanic holiday, which is from what we understand from the victim statements, that's the day that is celebrated. It was a major line in the sand, and I want to talk about some things that happened because the solstice was March 20th and 21st, and I just thought it was crazy with everything that happened. So first off, and if you're not aware, this Emily Sheets case was dismissed with prejudice. What does that mean? Well, Emily Sheets was one of many, many victims of David Hamblin's, and she was, again, had an incredible case. She came forward in 2022 when Mike Smith, the sheriff, asked for people who had been abused. She had evidence, a lot of evidence. And this was a case that was botched, not because there was no evidence, not because because David Hamblin was innocent, but because the Utah Sheriff's Department withheld information until the very last minute. And then the state prosecutor, the AG's office, who was supposedly on her side, recommended they drop the case. And so the judge ended up dismissing it on that day. And then on the summer solstice said we're dismissing it with prejudice, which means she cannot appeal it to a higher judge, because that's what everyone is saying. Well, it's just appeal it. And again, it's case closed. So that was obviously very disturbing to us. Then another thing happened. Our lawsuit. I've been asked not to talk too much in detail about it, but our lawsuit, the individuals who are suing us, and I'll just tell you, it's Joe Binion, and we're going to be talking about them today. They amended the complaint, and so they're adding more to the lawsuit. The reason they're suing us. Go well. He has a stalking injunction placed against him. The same day, they went after him and increased, basically threatened him with fines for every page he's written. I mean, it was just crazy, everything that happened. But there was another big thing that happened, and that was, and hopefully you've seen it or are aware of it. I don't know that you need to see it, but you should. And that was when KUER did a show on satanic panic, where they interviewed Joe Binion and talked about how all this satanic stuff, all this, what we're doing is basically the same thing that happened in the 80s, which is just satanic panic. And it's, if you listen to the interview, it's honestly, I'd almost encourage you to listen to it. I'll even put a link to it because it just shows you how one side is. In fact, even when they talk about David Hamblin and his daughters that filed or that wrote the victim statements, they didn't even admit that it was his daughters. They never admitted that or discussed why these 15 plus perpetrators were never even investigated. Nothing has ever happened. There's the police, the justice system has refused to touch or go after any of the victims there, or any of the alleged perpetrators. So that came out as well. All those things obviously were very frustrating to me and to Alexia. But the thing that really put us over the edge, and again, all this stuff happening on the spring equinox, Mary Beth. If you notice the hummingbird I'm wearing here, that's the hummingbird she gave us, or gave me, and she gave one to Alexia too, after the show we did with her. So she was, I don't want to say threatened, because it wasn't threatened, but she was pressured, and it honestly was like gaslighting by an ecclesiastical leader to take down the show. And she was pretty distraught on that. There was obviously much more to it than that. But then there was another one, and that's really why I wanted Ashley and Chelcie here, because I have so much respect for survivors who are willing to stand up and talk. We've talked on this show before, and I have a huge, and I've talked about my love for Alexander Solzhenitsyn, because all darkness, all tyranny, all evil is always built on the foundation of lies. And the power of the tyrant rests on the people going along with the lie and not calling it out. And the thing that brings down the tyranny is people who are willing to stand up and say, you know what, this isn't right. And Alexander Solzhenitsyn was a man that did that in Russia. Most of Western civilization believed that communism was actually a very viable form of government, that Russia was doing great things, until Alexander Solzhenitsyn exposed all the corruption, the gulag, the deaths, the murders, and how evil it truly was. And a lot of people say he single-handedly brought down that empire and communism in general. Well, I have just the greatest amount of respect and love for all of you who are watching, who are survivors, who have come forward, whether to us or to the public, and talked about what happened and exposed the evil. But something that just I have no tolerance for is when people are willing to do that, when the perpetrators come and try to silence them again. And we've seen that with Mary Beth, and I want to have welcome again Ashley and Chelcie to the show, and
thank you.
Have you guys share with our audience what happened. It was Thursday morning, right?
Yeah, it was Thursday-ish morning. Yeah. I was just on my way to Costco, and I get a random text message from a number I didn't recognize, and it was really alarming because it shook me up a little bit at first because, one, I don't know who this is, and they seem to know a lot about me, and I'll just read it to you right now. It said, "Hi, Ashley. I wanted you to listen to this podcast and see this article." And they linked the episode to the Satanic Panic and another link article about the Benyans and how they're being harassed. "Your lies won't last much longer. Your conspiracy theories have been around for decades with zero proof. I'm saddened for you that you have let a therapist, with quotations around it, infiltrate your mind and destroy your family. The lies you continue to spread and perpetuate are ruining innocent lives. You are not a voice spreading truth. I'm sure you won't take the time to listen to the evidence and research done on SRA for decades, but you really should. Haven't you lost enough friends and family?" So yeah, initially when I got that message, I sent it to Chelcie, and I took a deep breath, and it took me a minute because my adult self can see it. It was like, this is just here to intimidate me. Like, don't let this bother you. But also the pieces of me that are still working on being healed, like, were like, oh my gosh, like, what's going on? And this is so unfair. And like, no, I'm not lying. And, just all of those feelings and those thoughts that come about. And anyway, so Chelcie and I talked about it, and like, I'll admit, like, I cried for a minute just to kind of like let it out. And then it was, I don't know, like an hour or so later, Chelcie got a message from the same number, similar. I don't know.
Chelcie, tell us what happened.
I guess first off, we discussed how to handle her text message, whether we should respond or Ashley respond from her phone. We decided, Ashley decided it would be best just to not respond, not acknowledge the text. When they texted me about an hour later, I felt differently. I also felt more comfortable responding from my phone. than I did from having Ashley respond from her phone. I'm willing to do that to me, I guess, and not have her worry about it. She has enough to deal with as far as that stuff goes. She doesn't need any aggression on her phone. And mine did say, very similar message. And at the end, though, it said, I'm sending this to you because you really need to take a hard look at the issue for the sake of your own kids. And this is something that has weighed heavily on my mind for years. This is not something I just have willy-nilly accepted and been happy to embrace. This is a challenging subject with lots of consequences, and it's had hard consequences for us as a couple and in our family life. And I've felt a little offended that they told me to take a hard look, like it's not something I would take a hard look at. So I decided to respond from my phone, and I just said, first off, who is this? And you can trust that I've taken a hard look at this. They responded about half an hour later and said, thanks, that's all that matters. Didn't say who they were, didn't come forward or anything. So, yeah, that's my message that I got.
Yeah, and I was I'd got a call from you guys and was very concerned and frustrated because it felt very much like, intimidation type tactics. But then I get a call a little later and tell our guests, our listeners, what happened after that.
Yeah, well, thankfully I'm pretty open with my boys. To a degree, obviously, but I was upset. Like we were packing to go out of town actually, and I didn't want to let them know I was upset, but then I don't know, just all the overwhelm. Like I was kind of getting frustrated with the slowness of packing and whatever. And my oldest was like, "Oh my gosh, like what's wrong?" And so I just kind of let him know, like, I got a message that's kind of bothering me. Like I was feeling unsettled about it, right? So I'm grateful I said something to him, like just let him know, like, hey, like this is what I'm dealing with. Because then on our way down to Zion, we were in the car and he's like, "Mom, I just got a message from that same number." And his was similar to what mine and Jesse said, but again, they kind of put in more personal pieces, just kind of like your mom's actively spreading false information and lies and ruining lives, just very accusational against me and just along those same lines. But then the ending was, these lies have cost her countless friends and family. Her actions created such a rift that you were not able to see your grandfather before he recently passed. Everyone deserves to know the truth, and that includes you. He replied, they sent the link to listen. He's like, "I'll listen to the episode if you tell me who this is." And I'm like, "Oh, we don't need to engage after that." But anyway, and that's when I reach out to you again and just let you know, like, hey, my son just got a message. And that's where we both were feeling like, no, like we do not involve, like, why is our 17-year-old being brought into this? Like, anyway, so that was for us where the line definitely got crossed. Yeah.
So what'd you guys do after that?
Well, we went to Zion and we canyoneered and like went off the grid for a little bit, just like go and just like enjoy our time as a family, which was much needed. And then we talked about it, like what we wanted to do, take action. And we ended up talking with a police officer last night, and we filed a police report this morning. And they looked into the number, and it's a number that's not even real. Like somehow it's not registered anywhere. Yeah. So
somehow they were able to get access to some line and text you without being identified.
Yeah, the officer was telling us last night when we were talking to him, I guess they deal with this kind of stuff a lot lately, where there's these apps that people can use, and he wasn't 100% sure if this is what happened, but most likely you can use an app that will just like disrupt whatever number is being used, and it makes it like traceable and just like a fake ghost number. You look like you had something else to say.
We didn't really expect much to come from this police report. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to figure out how to get a fake number and be completely anonymous. But we just did want it, I think, on record. Yeah. Just for maybe perhaps expecting more text messages or similar retribution or similar responses in the future. Just kind of creating a paper trail in case that's
smart.
necessary.
What do you think, Chelcie? All this.
Yeah, I think, Ashley, you were saying before we started the show that when you tell the truth and expose truth and light, you're going to get opposition and the devil's going to fight back hard. And I think that kind of behavior, that's disgusting. That is not normal behavior. That is anger and somebody that sounds like they feel threatened. And if somebody is, saying things that isn't true, you don't tend to be threatened by that. You tend to be threatened by truth. So, and I'm just really grateful to you and all the others who have come forward and had the courage to expose what's going on. And what was it called? Satanic Panic
Episode.
I think it's getting a little old. The people are on to now. We know Pizzagate is a thing. Liz Crokin, the original. Did you ever follow Liz Crokin? She was the original journalist who exposed Pizzagate.
Oh, I know what Pizzagate is, but I'm not familiar with
They
this.
had her labeled crazy. Everybody is following her now. We've got the Epstein stuff coming out, the P. Diddy stuff coming out. People know that this is a thing.
Now look at the Olympics, the opening ceremony, all the satanic rituals in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all over. I mean, you can't not see it.
I mean, so keep printing the conspiracy theory articles and interviews, but you're not going to get anywhere with it.
Yeah.
People are waking up.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, is there any comments that you have for those who might be who are watching or listening?
Yeah, I mean, my husband and I on the way here, actually, we were talking about this. Like, a lot of my reasons of wanting to even come on today was not just to say this is what's happening to me, but in a way just help other survivors who are afraid to speak up, because that's honestly, there's like a hump you almost have to get over as a survivor to like kind of get that like courage to speak up and to expect that there's going to be the opposition, and to not let it intimidate you, to just continue to speak truth. And I loved Mary Beth's message at the end of hers when she was talking about the hummingbird with like, I love that, like the more that we gather, like it's this beautiful hum. And so to find courage in that, and don't let these people intimidate you, because that's where they want us. They want us to stay small. They want us to stay quiet so that their secrets are held in our silence. So,
Any thoughts?
It's good to speak up, and I have spent countless hours. Maybe I just want to defend myself even in this. I've spent the majority of my prayers lately asking God to make sure that I'm doing His will. And it's not clear to me. It's not always clear to me what the right thing to do is. But I pray and all the time that I will be doing the right thing. And sometimes it changes minute by minute, feeling like what the right direction is. But that is my goal in life is to do the right thing. And I struggle with it sometimes, but that's where I put my efforts, and I know supporting Ashley is the right thing to do in this. She's my partner, and that's what we do. And just as you were speaking, I was thinking back to the first time I was on your show. Just the faith required, I think, to be open-minded enough to accept that this is happening. Like we were talking about, most of society has accepted that Hollywood is all about this, and they're not hiding it anymore. And the general public have accepted that. We need to be open-minded enough to know that it can happen amongst us as well, which, again, requires some faith. If you believe in good and God, then there's going to be evil and the devil as well, and you can't accept that there's one without the other. And so I hope that most God-fearing people will accept and be open to the idea that this is real, that there is that satanic worship or Satan out there isn't just a panic, that it is a reality. So
Awesome.
just some thoughts.
Thank you.
Can I just one quick?
Please.
So, if you remember when we did the episode on who to vote for, and I had mentioned a lot of the judges were corrupt. This is a lot of the stuff that I had been looking into years prior, and I'd mentioned Judge Robert Lund in the Utah District Courts. He has been a recurring judge that has come up with girls that I've talked to that have had their children taken away from them. One woman that I talked to, the kid was basically given to a pimp. She has a letter from her pediatrician basically saying that her daughter is showing signs of sexual abuse under his care and she can't get him back. There was another case under the same judge where this girl, the judge basically forced an affidavit only case. So only affidavit. She wasn't allowed to testify in her own case, took her kids from her. So one of the federal judges that I talked to, who was a judge in Nevada for 20 years, he had looked at that case and he's like, I have never seen anything like this. He told me that, so after 20 years of being in the courts, basically once the federal funding started coming in for child protective service type cases, he started seeing a lot of really evil, shady stuff going on, a lot of corruption with these kids being taken. But there's people like this from the inside, these federal judge for 20 years who are talking. It's on recorded minutes. A couple years ago, I think it was last year actually, Ken Ivory brought forth a bill to put harsher penalties on SRA.
Ritualistic abuse, yeah.
Yeah. And there were a lot of police officers that were, because I sat in on that meeting, I actually gave comment on that meeting, police officers who were testifying that, yes, this is a thing, that it's happening in Utah. So you have judges, police, I know one of the hardest things for the victims is big cases like this where big people are involved, where, police and judges have helped sweep this under the rug like we're seeing. But we have the police and the judges on the other side of this that are starting to come out of the woodworks from the inside, that are starting to talk as well. So there is an army forming. And for those of you who are scared to come forward, just know, even if you only see 30 people show up to a meeting because our schedules are busy, we've got a lot going on. I talk to a lot of people. There are hundreds, if not thousands. There is an army of people behind you that believe you and are supporting you. So, and it's like you said, Jason, we were sent here to this time to expose light and truth, like you said. And as you always say, maybe you were born for such a time as this.
I love it. You guys heard the prophecy that in the last days, Utah would be one of the most wicked places in the world?
Yeah.
I think
we're there.
Think about it. If you believe that, I think a lot of people do believe that. I believe it. And I think about the wickedness in the world. I think, what is the real wickedness in the world? It is the Epstein stuff. It is the abuse of kids. It's the trafficking. It's what's going on in Hollywood. And you talked about, Jesse, the opposition of light and dark. And if you have some of the most brilliant light and truth in the state, which I think you do, how would you not have the polar opposite of that? And I think
even by degrees.
Absolutely. And so I think, when people say, "Oh, Salt Lake's going to be one of the most wicked places in the world," I don't think they're talking about people out sitting on this corner smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. I don't think they're talking about, same-sex stuff. I think they're talking about people in secret combinations. They're just talking about the blood of innocent children that has always gone on since the foundation of this world. Evil is built on the blood of innocent children. And to think that's not going on here, I think is naive. Well, and I think, it's when you're battling, power that has been an old empire or power that has been in power, they tend to continue to do the tactics that have worked in the past, right? Mm-hmm. Like when America, during the Revolutionary War, fought the British fought on the same way they've been winning wars for hundreds of years. And the warfare changed. The American revolutionaries, they didn't fight that way. And because they fought in a different way and the British were slow to adapt, the British lost. And I think that's what's happened. I think they're going back to the same tactics that they used in the 80s, because all this stuff came up. The Glenn Pace memo. There were so many, stories and survivors that were coming forward. And what they did is they controlled the mainstream narrative. They got channels like KUER and Deseret News to run the same propaganda pieces that are saying the same things that they wanted said, which is, this is panic, there's nothing to it. And then they silenced anyone that came forward. And then they made sure the police didn't investigate, like what we've seen with the Hamblin. So, but here's the neat thing. What's changed is we now have a bit control over the narrative as well. Mm-hmm. It's not just KUR. In fact, if you go to KUR, you want to know what's funny? If you go to their YouTube channel, where they've got this, I think they've got like 300 views. Oh. KUAR with the Satanic Panic. So there you go.
Exactly. No one
KUR.
believes you, like I
Yeah,
said. So.
yeah. So I mean, this thing is
Have
everyone
fun printing
knows
articles.
fake news, but here's the thing too, and I appreciate you guys bringing this up. And this I really wanted to share with those of you who have truth to share that are afraid, that are intimidated, and that have been intimidated. I love Jordan Peterson too, and one of the things he says is because he's always encouraging people. In fact, one of the things he says is, when you have something to say, silence is a lie, and tyranny feeds on lies. And then he says, and let's talk about that. He says, first off, it's not safe to speak. It isn't, and I think you guys are examples of that. In fact, we are too. We're all getting sued, and Mary Beth and Goel and everybody who's been involved with this here in the state is starting to see some repercussions, some backlash. Mm-hmm. So it isn't safe. It isn't safe. If you're feeling like, you want to speak the truth, and is it safe? The answer is no. But I will tell you this: the alternative of not speaking, of not standing up, while it may not be safe to speak, not speaking is terrifying, because what happens when we don't speak? More abuse happens. Tyranny grows. And that is why they're afraid of people speaking up, is because they know that is what it's the same story that's of the emperor who wears no clothes. When enough people start to call him out as being naked, he loses his power and he's undone. And that's the same thing with these people. And so I'm going to encourage you guys. First off, thank you for your support. Thank you for, and if you haven't seen the show with Ashley and Jesse, you can go back into Shadows of Power series. And the best spot to find is on YouTube, because you've got the playlist, but it's on Rumble too. And you can watch their show. It's very powerful. These two are a very powerful couple, and I've been honored to get to know them and be friends with them since then. Yeah, there's just nothing more powerful than the spoken truth and standing up and speaking truth. And I would just encourage you guys to, support people like this, because they're getting, she showed me a Facebook post where they're getting attacked. And I just hope that people like us are willing to stand up and not just, speak up, but in the comments, but follow these people on their social media and just be a support people. And if you know people in your circle of friends who've been through any type of abuse, when they come, support them and be there for them, because what we're finding is this stuff is rampant in the state, not just the ritualistic, but just, sexual abuse in general. And we clearly have a system that is allowing it to go unchecked when you've got the box elder, fire chief Hansen, you've got the judge, Christensen, who are, clearly, communicating, clearly, talking about abusing their relatives, their kids, having sex together. These are people, leaders in the community who are supposed to be protecting, and they're preying on us. You've got Bassett and Fruit Heights, who racked up over 50 victims. This is, we're starting to find out, is an epidemic in this state. So those of you who are thinking about speaking up, please speak up. And if you want to reach out to us, you can find us just go to our website, and go to the bottom. There's a link, or you can just email us at abuse@wearethepeople.org. We would like to hear your story, and we'd like to stand and help and fight for people, especially those who are where there's systematic abuse happening. So anyways, God bless you guys. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all that you do, and keep fighting. We'll see you later.